Alright, now this next video about the Autolite 4100 is going to be how to properly adjust the choke. And I'm actually going to go through what all of these adjustments are actually doing instead of just telling you how to set them so you actually have some idea what's going on. But again, the purpose of a choke is to enrich the mixture when the engine is first started because it needs to run a little bit more rich in order to start out cold. So how that works is that there's this choke butterfly on the top over the primary venturis, and when this is closed it basically limits how much air can get sucked through there, and it's going to slow the air down too, and that's going to have the effect of causing more fuel to evaporate, and so the mixture is going to be more rich. So there's a few different settings with this, and there's a specific order you need to do them. So the first one, and this choke cap is going to warm up and cause the adjustment of the choke. But the first one is called the choke pull down. So you need to take the choke cap off, and then inside of here there's a piston. Okay, hopefully you can see that. But this piston, this lever here with this prong, that's going to be connected to the thermostatic spring. And what we want to do is we want to set where this horn, how far open that choke butterfly is going to be at a certain spring position. So in order to do that, you have to set the choke pull down. You need, first of all, a little paper clip that you need to bend like this. You need a real short little section there, and this, you should use a smaller paper clip. The wire diameter should be like 35 thousandths or something like that. Something close, doesn't have to be exact. And it's real hard to see, but if you, I don't know if I'll be able to show it or not, but I can just barely see there's a groove in the side of the wall, in the cylinder wall there for the piston. And what you want to do is get this paper clip down in there and hook it in there. Let's see how to do this on camera. But you want to slide it down in there and hook it into the side. So I think it caught now. So that's where you want to hold it, and it's going to want to slip out. And then you want to move this lever such that the piston is right up against that. So I need to do that, and then I'll show you what it looks like when it's in the correct position. Okay, I have it hooked in there, and when you have it hooked in you need to keep pressure, so I'm pushing my thumb down to keep pressure on that wire so it's hooked in. And then this choke butterfly is open a specific amount, and that amount is the choke pull down measurement. And in this case I'm going to use 9/64. So I have a drill bit that's that size. Okay, now my choke gauge fell out, so I'll have to fix that, but the idea is to adjust that clevis pin right here until that clearance is the specified amount. So it's a little tight here, so I'll open that up just a tiny bit. And I forgot to mention, before you start doing the choke pull down adjustment, you need to block open the throttle most of the way so that the fast idle cam is not interfering with that adjustment at all. So make sure that you put the screwdriver in so this can move completely freely. Alright, so here's the final adjustment. I have the gauge paper clip in there. I'm pressing down with my thumb, and the drill bit of the correct size just barely fits into the choke horn there, and the butterfly is set open to the correct amount with this adjustment here. Okay, then the next thing we're going to do is adjust this linkage, but to do that you're going to have to put the choke cap back on, so I'm going to do that next. Okay, now the next adjustment we're going to do is the fast idle cam linkage, which is this screw here. And the book calls for turning the choke cap once it's on there. Find this index mark, so right here it's lined up at 0, and it says turn this 90 degrees to the rich direction, which would be counterclockwise. Now the effect this is going to have, and again the 90 degrees isn't real critical, it's just you want to put a lot of tension on here. This is going to simulate the car being in a very cold environment. So let's say it's 20 below 0 or something. this spring is going to be very taut towards this direction counterclockwise, and what that means is the fast idle cam is going to be at its maximum position to give the highest idle. Okay. Now when I do this, you can either put the cap on there 90 degrees, or if you just want to hold this down counterclockwise. Okay. Now before you start this adjustment, it's very important that you have the throttle blocked open just enough so that this screw is not going to touch the fast idle cam. So I know it's real hard to see, but it's not touching. This can move freely. Fast idle cam can move freely. If you have the throttle open too much, you will have trouble with this adjustment because of the choke unloader. So this tab here, if you open the throttle too much, it'll actually interfere with that fast idle cam adjustment. So make sure that the throttle is just open, maybe like a quarter of the way to halfway, not so much that that choke unloader is touching. But the other thing to make sure is when you do this, this choke should be nice and tight. Okay, this is completely closed. All right, and then I have it pretty close. I'll show you the two methods. The first method is to adjust that screw I talked about earlier, the linkage screw, until the screw for the fast idle is in the middle of the highest profile of the fast idle cam. And you can see that there, it's roughly in the middle. Okay, and that's method number one. Method number two involves using an 1/8 inch drill bit or some kind of 1/8 inch gauge. And what you're going to do is stick this in here. There's a notch on the back of the choke housing, and then there's this tab that moves with that linkage, and you want to adjust it until the gap between those two is about 1/8 of an inch. So again, holding the cap down, and I have it adjusted, so you'll just have to take my word for that gap is about 1/8 of an inch. And you can see that I have the throttle open, locked open just enough so that that screw is falling right in the middle of the high profile of the fast idle cam. So that is the proper adjustment. And again, make sure that your choke cap stays all the way to the rich direction when you do that. All right? And then the third adjustment would be this screw itself, which is the amount of fast idle. So this screw here controls how far open those throttles are going to be on the fast idle. And there's a spec for that, but it involves waiting until the engine is fully warmed up. And then you want to set, you see that little V right here on the cam? What you want to do is you want to manually set the fast idle cam so that screw is right at that V, which is right before the highest notch, and then adjust this screw until the fast idle meets the specification listed. Well, and actually there's one more adjustment I forgot, which is actually an important one, and that is the choke cap adjustment. Now what this does is controls it's like the temperature compensation for the rich and lean. So you can see that it has arrows, so if I turn it this way, it'll make the engine start out more lean. If I turn it counterclockwise, it'll make the engine start out more rich. Now typically how you would set this according to the book is you look at this index mark and then you set it according to what it says. So like that would be too rich, too lean would be that direction. However, you'll get into trouble with that unless these choke caps are made to exacting specifications, and it's my opinion that they're not. They're all reproductions now. So the best way to do it is to have the throttle blocked open a little bit and just adjust this until the choke is completely closed after you've done the other adjustments properly. And you would want to do this at the highest temperature that the engine would be started at cold. So if it gets to like 90 degrees or 100 degrees in the summer, this is the best time to do that. And what you want to do is start out with it lean and just turn it until it's completely closed. It's still open a little bit. Okay, now I think it's completely closed. So that would be an appropriate setting. Now in this it looks like that's between 3 and 4 rich. I think the book calls for 2, but again, doing it this way accounts for defects or variances in these coils. So just ignore what the book says and just turn it like I say until that choke is closed. Now if you do it by the book and it's open a little bit, and what happens, you might not get your engine to start because it's not choking fully. So I've had a lot of frustration over that, and it's because these things are not made to exact specifications anymore. So just do it like I say till it's closed, just about there. So it looks like this one is about 3 or 4 rich is a good setting there. Okay, so that is how you should set the choke cap. If you want to try the book setting first, and if it doesn't start, then you can try my version. Okay, and then once you have that set, then tighten those 3 screws down so this can't rotate anymore. And then I'll show you how to make sure that the choke unloader is working with the choke lines. Now the last adjustment, or actually verification that things are working, is going to be the vacuum unloader for the choke. So I have it set, and again, you want to make sure that on the hottest day you're going to start this choke is completely closed. And I can verify that just by pressing it. It should be sort of a medium tension, but it should always go completely closed. So if I push down here, it's not moving, I know it's completely closed. Now if you have the passages in here get clogged with rust or something from the choke lines, this choke isn't going to work right because that piston is going to get jammed up, or the passages into the carburetor are going to get clogged. So the way you can verify that this works is take compressed air, and before you do this, make sure you turn the compressed air pressure down to about 15 psi. If you blow 100 psi in here, I don't know what it's going to do. It might break something. So turn it down first, and then I'm just going to put this into one of the choke tube connections there, and then I'll push it, and then watch what happens to the choke butterfly. You see it opens about that amount that we set it to, okay, and then it snaps all the way back close. If you have it adjusted properly, this is what it should do. It should open up a little bit with the vacuum, and when you shut the vacuum off, it should close 100% back to how it was. Okay, so again, if you have this all adjusted properly, that's what it should do.